Hello, and welcome to CJ Creates. I'm CJ, and I create stuff. Hi everyone, it's been a while. Now, I know there were some concerns about what happened. I made 3 videos and disappeared for 3 months. I bet you were thinking, he's crazy, he's lost it, or something along those lines, and I'm here to quell all rumors. I did not. I did go a bit batty though. That joke should land in a couple of minutes probably. I don't know, you'll have to tell me. Anyways, I'm back, and I'm drawing again, and I drew some stuff. Also, it's Pokemon again, sorry not sorry, let's get into it. I should start by telling you that these Pokemon were not designed in the order I'm going to present them to you. I just had a really good idea one day and I ran with it, and I like how it turned out. So, the final stage was actually drawn first, then the first stage second, and then the second stage was drawn third, and that's just how it works sometimes, don't at me. I've been attempting to make a Fakemon grass starter for something like 2 years now. I have my fire and water starters, and I've had those designs for a really long time. I like them a lot, and they haven't been made digitally yet. They're next, I promise. But either way, for grass starters, I tried elephants, wolves, a lion one time. None of it stuck. And I think that's why I was so excited when I finally had this idea pop into my head. I was set on having a mammal for my grass starter. I really don't like how lonely Chespin and Grookey are. They're kind of outnumbered right now. Anyways, I settled on my starter being a bat. I think it's really cute, and it was kind of tricky to engineer a bat that's made of plants and also small and cute, but I think this design really came through. The best way to do this was to give my bat flower wings. This may be news to some people, but bats actually have the same skeletal structure as you do. Their bones are just stretched a little bit differently than yours. Their wings are actually really big hands with webbed fingers. It's maybe a creepy image at first, but I think it's really cool. Now that I may have potentially grossed you out, you're going to look at my design and say, why was that relevant? Your bat has no fingers. And, I mean, it has one, okay, but I do have to agree that may have been a useless bat fact. I had fingers on this bat originally, but I found that they cluttered up the design too much. I really wanted the petals of the design to shine through. When you look at the wings, I want you to be able to see clearly that it's a flower. Having green stems in there was nice at first for bat anatomy, but really distracted from the overall feeling that I wanted you to have while looking at this bat. I think when you look at this bat, it's very easy to understand that it's a grass type. That really comes through in its little leafy collar and its wings. I think it really shines through here. That was something that was important to me. I feel like lately a lot of grass type starters are kind of just green animals, and they don't really reflect their grass typing very well in their design. Maybe that's just me. I don't know. Let me know what you guys think. Meet Nectarin. I'm not going to bore you with the Latin roots of the scientific bat names I used for this, but just know that they are at play here. I think in making this little bat, a mammal so often associated with horror or scariness, into something sweet that likes to drink nectar is such a fun idea. I can even see it wrapping itself up in its wings and sleeping the day away in a flower meadow somewhere. It just brings a smile to my face. I think Nectarin really has that Pokemon vibe, where it's both friendly appearing, but also not just a normal animal. I'm really happy with how this one turned out. For my stage 2 bat, I really wanted to make sure that I kept the theme of non-blood sucking bats. That being said, this Pokemon, because it's a second stage, by nature kind of does need to have an angsty teenager look to it. So it needs to be aggressive, but I didn't want it to be evil. That was something really important to me. Another thing I wanted to address in this design was how this Pokemon was going to grow. It's important that each Pokemon carries a theme through its evolutionary line, but also presents its own unique features. It's kind of like a family where parents and siblings may look alike, but they aren't clones of each other. They share similar features, but they also have their own personalities and identities. In the second stage, I wanted a couple of things to stay really strong with it. It needs to stay a bat. I think that's a given. That's just kind of how it works. I also wanted to make sure it was still a plant, or plant-based at least. I think the biggest thing though to really emphasize here was that it wasn't supposed to be a scary Pokemon. I think it's a little too easy to lean into the bat associations and make it a dark grass type, something spooky, something scary. It could be very cool. I don't think it's a bad idea, but I don't think it would be revolutionary. Of course, not every Pokemon needs to be revolutionary, but I think the starters that are the most successful are the ones that kind of push the mold away from what we expect them to be. Basically what I'm getting at here is that I wanted to make an angsty teenage version of Nectarian that wasn't evil, but was still based on plants. I decided the best way to do this was to evolve Nectarian's concept. Nectarian drinks nectar from flowers, so what if this vampire drank from flower stems, or just plants in general? What if it sucked the nutrients out of them? I still wanted it to be gentle though, so maybe it's a farmer where it does care for these plants, but instead of taking their fruit, it just kind of sucks a little bit of their juices every once in a while. Maybe that's not as cute of an idea as I thought. I think this leans very well into the idea of a teenage second stage Pokemon, where it becomes very possessive of the plants that it feeds on. That's something I think we often associate with being a teenager. You're very protective or possessive of your space or the things that you see as yours, and this Pokemon would have that same kind of protection over what it claims as its own. It's not really evil, but maybe it's aggressive in protecting these plants. The name here does again have some Latin, you're gonna have to forgive me. But meet Therisap. I like to think that it saps the life out of plants by drinking their sap. If you look at its feet, they do seem very, very small. This is on purpose, but maybe not for the reasons you'd think. In making Therisap, I wanted to push away from pre-existing bat Pokemon and their body shapes. The most recent bat Pokemon to be made were Noibat and Noivern. They're very cool, 10 out of 10, I like them a lot. They have very unique silhouettes, but they also stand on two legs. That's something that no other bat Pokemon has really done before. It's cool, but it just means it's not something I can do. Before this, only one other bat Pokemon stood at all, and that was Golbat, which is crazy because bats don't really stand up. They don't stand on 2 feet. That's not what they do. In fact, what they do is they crawl around almost on all fours when they're forced to. Bats actually have a really hard time taking off from the ground. If they do fall to the ground, instead of just flying like you would expect anything else to, that's what birds do, they have to climb themselves back up into a high position and drop from there. Once they drop, then they can fly with ease. But they can't do ground-to-air takeoffs like other flying animals can. I really wanted Therisap to embody this. I know it lives in a forest, but I wanted it to kind of have the same lifestyle as a real bat, as a true bat. That's why its feet are so small. It can't really stand on them, and if it does land on the ground at all, it's kind of forced to crawl around until it can get somewhere high and take off once again. Now for the main event. This is my first sketch of this idea, but I do like how it turned out. It is by no means perfect, but I'm sure I'm going to revisit it later, so I'm not really worried about it. Like I said before, in all 8 generations of currently released Pokemon games, reptiles dominate the grass starter field. You've got 3 dinosaurs, a gecko, a big snake. There's 2 mammals and a bird, 3 mammals if we count Sprigatito from Gen 9, which is unreleased. It's hard to make another grass-type bird. It doesn't really feel necessary either. I do think we need some more representation from other parts of the animal kingdom though, and so a mammal is the obvious choice. I say obvious because it's hard to make an amphibian or a fish that isn't a water type. When trying to think of concepts, it was hard to find something that felt fresh and original. I didn't want to make something that someone else had done before. When I thought of a giant leafy bat, I was so excited I had to put it down on digital paper. I imagined its massive wings taking up at least 2/3 of its body, and that they would be perfect for this kind of camouflage in a forest. Now I hear what you're saying, CJ, there's already a grass flying starter, how on earth is this original? To which I answer, well, that one doesn't stay flying, mine does. Also, Decidueye is Robin Hood and Dartrix is a secret agent, so, it's not like they're flying around. Mine is like flying. It flies around all the time. Also, mine gets extra points because it likes to spend some time upside down, which is cool. Very unique. I think something else that this Pokemon line I've designed does well is that it branches out by choosing to resemble actual bat physiology, at least more than its predecessors. It doesn't have 4 wings, it doesn't stand on 2 legs, and it's not themed around the shape of a heart. Something else that it does that I really am happy with is that it's not darkly colored. You'll notice this Pokemon's got white fur, at least when it's not a shiny, and that's something that keeps it lighthearted, which is something maybe you don't normally associate with bats. This may actually surprise you, but in Honduras there is a white species of bat. It's very cute, well, at least for a bat, and I'm a really big fan of its colors. Another fun fact about them is that they use leaves as little hammocks for raising their young in. A white bat affiliated with leaves? I think it's perfect. That's actually where the nose shape for Nectaron comes from. This cute little guy, the Honduran white bat. Another important source of inspiration for this Pokemon is the maple tree. Maybe maple trees are a little basic, but there aren't many Pokemon based on specific plants. A couple, like Parasect or Roserade, but a lot of grass-type Pokemon are just plants or just mushrooms. I've always thought maple trees to be one of the prettiest trees. They have some of the coolest looking leaves, and they present such beautiful colors when they transform during autumn. What's not to love? I think maple leaves make for a really cool wing shape as well. It looks tattered somehow, kind of still keeping that vampiric vibe, but the colors prevent it from being dark. Once I had this imagery drawn down, I started to think of what kind of Pokemon this would be. I felt like it would do really well as a gentle giant, kind of a protector of the forest. This is where the whole concept really played itself out in my mind. A guardian of the forest, instead of drinking blood, it would drink the sap of maple trees. In return, it spreads the seeds of these trees far and wide, increasing its territory and feeding grounds. I also like this idea because tapping maple trees doesn't necessarily hurt them. If it's done improperly, it definitely can, but this third stage would be an expert at tapping them for their sap and would avoid hurting the trees at all costs. Meet Vermaple. This big bat Pokemon has 0 Latin in its name, you're welcome. Instead, it's a combination of the words verdant and maple. Complicated, I know. I like the word verdant here because to me something that's verdant is something that's full of life. Its actual definition is rich in vegetation, which to me I see as fitting since Vermaple goes around planting new vegetation. It's a grower of forest and it creates and protects the verdant places of the world. To me that's a really cool image. By now you've probably noticed that I made some last minute adjustments to this design. I looked at it when I was doing all this editing and it was just a little too plain for me. I guess I've always struggled with keeping a good balance between a readable design and something cool, fresh, and exciting. When I originally drew Vermaple, I really did like how it turned out. It just was missing a little something. That's why I've added this large piece of bark that starts on its back and wraps around onto its chest. it's meant to kind of solidify it as the protector of the forest. It's got this armor now, it looks stronger, it kind of gives it a little bit more of a capable protector look. I also think that as a giant white bat, Vermaple would have a hard time blending into the forests that it's going to sleep in. Adding this patch of bark onto its back may not seem like a big deal, but I think adding this allows it to seem feasible that just wrapping itself in its wings would allow it to camouflage. Anyways, those are my new Fakemon. Nectaron, Therasap, and Vermaple were all super fun to draw, and I really like how they turned out. I will probably revisit them in the future, but I don't know when, so let me know what you think of them. Are their themes cool? Do you think the ideas are there? Are they too basic, or too complicated even? Let me know what you think. For now, I hope you like what I've made, and I can't wait to see you create something of your own. Have a good one!